which, yeah, and it's a good job. But I do appreciate the thought. Oh, I need to mark that hydrate done, or I'll end up just drowning myself later before I realise what I've done. And I've lost my redemption queue. That's not good. Review core queue, hydrate, complete, done. Great. Oh, I've hopefully improved the music a bit. Okay. Okay. Order. Just make sure it does actually look right in the end. Yeah, that's fine. Probably should have double checked before I pushed the code, but you know, never mind. We're here now. Cool, that looks good. So I've been doing a lot of tests today and getting them working. So this one here there's a few tests in 1.14 that were not run automatically for reasons I don't entirely understand. And can we do this for example? It says standard coverage. Other way back. Yep. Okay, so he's just saying this, it's part of the extended set, which is why it wasn't running. That makes sense. So yeah, we're fixing some of the tests up and enabling them so that we get sure that code coverage is in. QA, pull tester, RPC, replace. Clean. Doge Army General, I mean, so that's specifically why we've got Oscar coming on Wednesdays to help explain a lot of this, because, like, I mean, obviously he's given us a high-level explanation, I understand the key points, but I could give you my rough understanding of it, miss key details, or things that may have changed, because we haven't had a major architectural refresh from him in quite a while. So it is essentially for me to understand what he's doing, as well as teaching the audience. So the model we've currently got for how it's going to be run is that we'll have Soma asking high-level questions. I will then be unpicking technical detail on it, and we'll have the two technical experts to provide that technical detail. Syed Akarama asks, can we code in Python for Doge or C++ only? So the core code itself is all in C++. However, the tests are written in Python because it's often faster to build them that way. I'm just going to open a window, back in a second. The weather in London is quite interesting, is the phrase I'm going to go with. And yeah, it's a bit hot, bit damp. I can't make sure what to make of it, which is also why if you hear thunder, that's actually outside. But just give a bit of... So what I do know about the bridge is it lets you basically pass Dogecoins to an address where they're locked. And then you are issued equivalent tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. So the model, I would say, is similar to basically casino chips. In that you take something that is the currency you have and you change it to another equivalent currency that's paired one-to-one, but you can use in a different context. And then you have these on Ethereum tokens that you can use like any other ERC20 token. Adonai 2019, I think I'm ready to pull up if you want to do it. Mr. Rick asks, cricket or football? Ooh, interesting. I'd say cricket. I would say cricket. So what we're doing in the background here is just rebuilding some stuff, just to rerun some tests, make sure they do all pass before I submit this. Shouldn't take too long. But then, for example, if you wanted to use, so one idea we talked about was potentially could the Dogecoin tip jar, which is currently held in a multi-signature address, which we can work with, but it's a lot of effort. Could we move that to a smart contract in Ethereum, and then that makes it easier to maintain the list of accounts? It means that if we want to replace, as we've recently done, one of the keys that controls it, we don't have to move the address entirely. We can just say, hey, add this new signing address and then remove this one. This is the simple terms I've got, unfortunately. It's a pretty complex topic. The transactional fee reduction will be part of 114.4. Well, enabling it will be 1.14.4. We will... Oh, okay. Hang on, let me find out why the pull-ups are disabled. Should be enabled. Oh. Sorry, I misunderstood how one of the tick boxes works. Try that now. So Doge 2 is, as I understand it, it's something they are tentatively talking about. I don't think there's a specific launch date for it. I think once Doge 1 has been launched, they may come back with a specific date. But you would have to ask Geometric Energy Corporation for the details on that. I would love to do a YouTube tutorial. I mean, there's obviously a lot of pressure on my time, and everything's just kind of trying to get as much done as I can. There's a few other things I need to do. I need to review some legal paperwork. I need to do preparation for a presentation I'm actually doing to work. So that's kind of the next few things that I'm doing, and it's good to, I think, and explain what I'm doing that's not on stream, because obviously there's a lot of stuff that's opaque to the audience. Doge Army General asks, are there any good books or resources where someone like me with a you don't have a small brain? It's just a lot to learn. Like some of the stuff I don't get first time. Don't worry. Can read more about blockchain. There was actually some guides that a friend of mine was referring to recently, and it's probably a pretty good starting point. Hang on. There we go. So I quite like this one. Have a look through that. See what you think. I'm gonna do some pull-ups. Ooh, let's go. Probably shouldn't do that with my watch on. That was what the horrific clunk noise at the start was, where I went, hey, I'm going to jump for it. And my watch went, yeah, I'm in the way. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, keep in mind, one of the things I think is when we teach people things at school or undergraduate level, everything that is put in front of you, you should be ready to process. And therefore we presume that we should be able to grasp any concept that we see. And then if you go to postgraduate level, that becomes complete nonsense. You are often given things that you cannot understand. And what you have to do is use them to discover what you don't know, and then go and review that concept. So I was actually reading up on RenVM today, and you can read about this with me. So I've been doing my research ahead of Wednesday because I need to catch up. And I was reading RenVM, and that's a big long page, and if you read it you'll probably be confused. Spoiler, so was I. Like, I get a lot of that. Oh, thank you for the Hydrate X Luca. I need to actually, yeah, if you try reading all of that in one big go, you'll probably be quite confused. Honestly, I kind of was. But that's not the point. The point is that you can make a list of the topics that you found most confusing, And then for me, I think a second read and I'll probably get it. But there's a few things I want to understand better. Things like how the key handling works. For other people, you might go, well, what is an ECDSA key? And then you have to step back and go and look into ECDSA. And Mandy has redeemed an ad time. Interesting. So for those of you who are not subscribed, I apologize for what is about to happen. I will try not to do anything interesting in the next 60 seconds. Tell you what I'll do is I'll grab some water while the advert runs. It runs an advert, is what it does. So you get an advert and I'm going to get some water. I will be right back. And welcome back, everyone. I am doing well. How are you, Thrones Cool? So I hope my build is finished. My build has finished. Right, let's run some tests. QA, pull tester, RPC tests. So we're looking for replace by fee tests to run to prove that we've actually corrected all this. Or is it? Let's focus it.
All right. All right. Okay. Here we go. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm Soma Green. Today, we are talking to Ross Nicole, lead developer of Dogecoin, OscarGuindzberg, lead developer of the Dogecoin Ethereum bridge, and VitalikButerin, co-creator of Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency behind Bitcoin. So, unlike Bitcoin, which is seen as digital gold, Ethereum is a blockchain-based platform for developers to build and operate applications. And that might seem a little confusing for some of you. All you have to know is that blockchain is like a digital ledger. The information recorded is duplicated and distributed across an entire network of computer systems, making it extremely difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. Vitalik, how does using this system provide security?
Like, how does building applications on Ethereum provide security for those applications? Or like, what
How
do you
does
mean?
the blockchain itself provide security? A lot of people are concerned about how it works and are confused about how it works.
I mean, it works because you have this network of a large number of computers all around the world that are checking every transaction and that are running some kind of distributed consensus to agree together on like what order to include transactions in. And once that order is in place, like after some point in time, like it becomes extremely difficult to change. So the core of it has to do with this consensus mechanism, and this is where things like proof of work and proof of stake come in, right? And basically, it's this way that allows a network to like basically keep this growing log of transactions and run this computation of like what's the result after you run all of these transactions in a way that's resilient against even a large part of the nodes in the network trying to attack the system.
Yeah, I think once people have a better understanding, they'll be more comfortable with the whole situation. I heard you got into blockchain from a frustration with World of Warcraft. Is that true?
That was more of a joke.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I figured maybe it had something to do with you know, the whole system or something like that. But how were you led then to create Ethereum? What drove that within you to make it happen, to make it a reality?
Again, I first found out about Bitcoin back in 2011. I thought, hey, this is this very interesting system. It's both interesting technology and like it's not just an app. It's actually something that's trying to make some kind of significant impact on the world and like even change how like economics and finance operate. And I thought I found all of the different aspects of Bitcoin interesting. I joined the Bitcoin community, and then I started spending a lot of time talking to the people that were trying to like take Bitcoin ideas and take blockchains and come up with how to extend that technology to applications beyond Bitcoin. So there are people doing things like Namecoin, which was a DNS system, Colored Coins, which is a system that would let people issue their own assets, Mastercoin, which is probably the very first protocol that we today would call a DeFi protocol, even though back then nobody used that word. And so I was looking at all of these projects, and the idea behind Ethereum basically just came from a desire to create something that could do all of those things, but could be more general purpose. And so instead of just supporting a limited number of applications, like it would just open up space for creativity and people could just build their own applications and put them on the Ethereum blockchain, and the blockchain would just run those applications securely for you.
Can you talk about some of the possibilities of the blockchain-based software platform, like some of the applications that maybe even some of the hypothetical applications that we could be using this for?
Mm-hmm. Decentralized finance, like I think, is the most popular one right now, right? Like you can basically build these systems that allow people to like hold coins, transfer coins, but also create things like stable coins, like assets that are designed to target having a stable price, create just do basically everything that or many things that the existing financial system allows you to do, but do that all in this decentralized and transparent way. So like that would, for example, like allow anyone in the world to basically like hold an asset that's equivalent to US dollars, which is something that the existing financial infrastructure does not really make it easy for a lot of people to do. It makes it easy to just send money around the world. Going beyond finance, there's also many other applications that you could run on chain. So like, for example, ENS, the Ethereum name service, like that essentially lets you have it lets you turn your Ethereum wallet into something more like a personal profile, right? Like you would have a name and everyone recognizes that this account corresponds to this name, and there's a registry, and so you can't have two different accounts that have the same name. And then that's like, so for example, if you wanted to just send ETH or send Ethereum assets to me, you don't have to remember my 40 character Ethereum address. You just send it to Vitalik.eth, and ENS kind of figures out what address that points to automatically. And then that's not just useful for like transferring money. Like you could, like, for example, there's like a decentralized chat applications like Status, and you can use that to Status to actually talk to people. And this is a decentralized chat application that does not rely on any centralized servers at all. And it has it actually uses ENS for accounts as well, right? And so you could think of your ENS name as like first just being a way to refer to you if people want to interact with you in the crypto world, but then like you could imagine attaching attestations and having people make claims that say like I follow this person or I say this thing about this person, and then you could have this kind of record of or kind of graph of people saying things about each other. And from there, you could like basically create a more decentralized version of a lot of social media like infrastructure. You could even start thinking about like things like trust scores and reputation systems, potentially like, I mean, really hypothetically, there's people who wants to build like decentralized Uber type things and run them on a blockchain. So like how far you can actually take this is still an open question, but a lot of people are trying.
Yeah. So there's like, I think what I want people to understand too is that this is an application that gives a lot more people access to do more. So this is a good thing, guys. The possibilities here are great. There's a lot you can do with it. And I like how it has a certain amount of, you can be anonymous, but still get things done and kind of cutting out a middleman in a way.
Yep, absolutely. That's what blockchains are for. They allow large groups of people to cooperate without needing to have like some centralized middleman that everyone's interactions depend on.
Yeah,
and that's powerful.
I've seen a little bit about using the applications for like anonymous voting, even.
Yep. So people are doing that too.
All right. I'm excited for Ethereum 2.0, but there has been some hesitation from the public about the changes. Can you speak a little bit about some of the key changes?
Sure. So the two biggest changes that people have used the Ethereum 2.0 name to refer to are proof of stake and sharding. And these are two big changes that solve two different problems. So proof of stake is about improving security and improving energy efficiency. So a lot of people are worried about energy efficiency concerns with proof of work, and like the Bitcoin and also the Ethereum blockchains as they work today, they do end up consuming a lot of energy. They require a large number of very powerful computers to be constantly online 24/7 to solve these hash puzzles to secure the network. And proof of stake is an alternative. Like I sometimes think of it as being kind of like running proof of work inside of virtual reality. So like you basically convert your coins into virtual miners. And so you have the same effect in terms of security, actually much more security because of some differences in how proof of stake works, but you don't need to actually have any of these like real world computers running 24/7. So it can decrease the amount of energy that the Ethereum chain consumes by a factor of more than 1,000, basically converting it from being a big problem to being just not a problem at all. And it also allows the chain to be stronger and more secure against attacks in certain ways. So that's proof of stake. And the situation with proof of stake now is that we have a live running proof of stake chain, but the next major milestone is what we call the merge. So the merge is when the existing Ethereum accounts and the existing applications that are currently still running on the proof of work chain get moved over to the proof of stake chain. So the proof of stake chain has been running for about 7 months. Currently, it's not processing anything. This is just a warm-up period to make sure that the proof of stake chain works correctly, get people used to it. And then when the merge happens, all of that activity will get moved over and become part of the proof of stake chain. And from a user point of view, this is completely seamless, right? Like you could even send a transaction before the merge, the transaction would get included after the merge, and you would not even necessarily notice that anything different happened. But like what this actually means for the network, like it means a lot, right? Like it's a massive upgrade to efficiency. It's a significant upgrade to security. So that's proof of stake. The second thing that I mentioned is this big change called sharding. And sharding is a solution to the scalability problem, right? So a scalability problem is the reason why transaction fees on Bitcoin and Ethereum are high right now, right? Like you'd have to pay a fee of like sometimes even multiple dollars to send a transaction. And the reason why this is the case is that demand for using both of those blockchains increased massively over the last 5 years. But the amount of block space on both of those blockchains only increased a little bit, right? Like in Bitcoin, it went up by about a factor of 2, and Ethereum, it went up by a factor of 5. But the level of interest in using both of those systems went up by a factor of like 1,000. And so what happens is you have this like situation where there's a lot of people who want to send transactions and they're all bidding against each other, and only the ones that wants to pay the highest fees get in. So fees end up getting quite high. The only solution to this is to actually improve the technology so that the blockchain can process more transactions. And that's what sharding does, right? The way that it does it is that instead of requiring every computer in the network to process every transaction, you do some clever work to basically split the work up, so that each computer only verifies like a small subset of transactions. And you do this in such a way that it's still secure, it's still very resistant against attackers trying to sneak through invalid transactions. Invalid transactions would still get caught and still get rejected. But this basically means that instead of the network being able to process only as much as one computer, because everyone's computer has to process everything individually, you can have a network that can process hundreds of more times of transactions than what a single computer can handle. So sharding is a bit longer term, but sharding is still happening, and we have a team that's implementing a proof of concept, and it's very exciting work as well.
And I think that's going to continue to grow because I think Ethereum's popularity is going to continue to grow. So
Yes.
I have a feeling you're going to have to head even more in that direction. And do you believe that this is going to be the way that you'll continue to grow with the followers?
So there's also another scaling technique called rollups that I don't want to get too deeply into. It's a different kind of scaling, but it has the same effect, and it increases the transaction throughput by a factor of about 100. And actually, sharding and rollups stack on top of each other. So after we have both, then Ethereum should be able to process about 100,000 transactions per second. So going up from about 50 transactions a second that it can theoretically process today. So it's a big improvement, and I think it'll be enough for a very long time.
All right. So the London hard fork will add 5 Ethereum improvement proposals, or EIPs for those in the audience, that aim to enhance the blockchain. Can you speak a little bit more about some of the changes proposed, and just reassure people a little bit about what's going on with that? Because I think a lot of people are confused.
Sure. So by far the most important change in the London hard fork is this EIP that's called EIP 1559. And this is this very big and complicated EIP that essentially it implements a change in how the fee market works. So how people pay transaction fees and how transactions get accepted by the network. Basically, the way that it changes things is that today, including transaction fees are like an auction, right? So you send a transaction and you specify what fee it pays, and then the miner that's creating the block just gathers the transactions with the highest fees, and whatever you say is whatever you pay. Right. So this is called a first price auction. So first price auction is like whatever price you say is whatever price you pay, as opposed to a second price auction, which is when the first bidder pays as much as or pays the amounts that the second to highest bidder bid. Now, it turns out that like the reason second price auctions, despite their like lower degree of intuitiveness, exist is because there's a lot of like very established economic research that shows how first price auctions are inefficient, basically because first price auctions force you to have to like guess what other people's preferences are, what kinds of bids other people are going to be making, and try to like have these like very deep understandings of other people's behavior in order to be able to bid efficiently and like get the best deal for yourself. And this like is a very hard problem, right? And in Ethereum today, like wallets do this concept of gas estimation, and gas estimation is very hard. And sometimes basically users have this really hard trade-off between either paying more and getting a transaction included immediately, or paying less. But then if they pay less, they have to wait for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, often a very random amount of time before their transaction is included. And this really sucks. And the sad thing is that this waiting doesn't actually help anyone, right? Like it doesn't actually help the network that transaction gets included 20 minutes from now instead of getting included immediately. But, because of this very fixed and inflexible block size, everyone has to wait. So what EIP 1559 does is it basically says, instead of having a very fixed block size and having this auction so prices are really volatile, we have a fixed or a price that transactions have to pay, and then the block size can be a little dynamic. So sometimes blocks can be up to 2 times bigger, sometimes blocks can be smaller, depending on like how much demands there is second by second. And the fee that you have to pay, it does adjust over time to keep a balance of about the same level of usage. But like the block by block behavior, right, is that what the fee is, either you're willing to pay it or you're not. And most of the time, you should be able to get your transaction included in like 1 or 2 blocks. So massive improvements, like I think, to a user experience. And also another interesting consequence of this is that the fee that's set by the protocol, that fee doesn't go to the miner anymore. That fee gets burned, right? So most of the transaction fees in EIP 1559, that ETH actually gets burned. And if the transaction fees are high enough, then potentially like the burned fees could even be higher than the block reward, and like potentially you could even see the supply of ETH like decreasing at some point. And that becomes especially likely after you have both EIP 1559 and the merge, because of the merge reduces the rewards that needs to be paid to validators by a factor of about 5 or 10. So that's also another kind of reason. It's like people see it as a kind of an upgrade to the economics of Ethereum, and they're excited for that reason as well. So 1559, fascinating proposal. It makes these multiple different changes, and different groups of people are excited about it for different reasons. But it's happening next week, and it's already on testnets, and the testnets have gone well. So that's the big EIP. Aside from that, there are some smaller proposals. Like I think there was one proposal that's technically a separate EIP, but it's really part of EIP 1559. It just makes the base fee accessible to the EVM. So what that means is that you can have smart contracts that know what the current transaction fee level is. And like there's a whole bunch of like very niche but interesting reasons why that might be useful. There's EIP 3529, which gets rid of refunds, which is just a security measure that's needed to prevent blocks from block size from being too volatile. And then there's a couple of other fairly small things. So I think 1559 is the big one.
Yeah. Hear that, guys? Next week. Get excited. Get pumped. How did you discover Dogecoin?
I think just read about it in like some crypto forum. I forget which one, just like everyone else. I mean, maybe even on Reddit, maybe on some media thing.
I don't think I even heard about it until Ross started telling me about it. But my next question is for Oscar. Oscar is the lead developer for the Doge Ethereum bridge. Tell us a little bit about the Dogecoin Ethereum bridge and what it does, Oscar.
Hi, everybody. The Dogecoin Ethereum bridge allows basically a user to send Doges from the Dogecoin blockchain into the Ethereum blockchain. And then on the Ethereum blockchain, they are converted into Doge tokens that are like any other ERC20 token. And user can use those tokens to send them to someone else or use them in a decentralized exchange or DeFi. And eventually the bridge can be used to return the Doge tokens to the Dogecoin blockchain. You can think of the bridge as you can think of the blockchains as databases. So the bridge is a way to move data from one database to the other. That's kind of a big picture.
Why is your bridge better than the RenVM approach to bridging from Dogecoin to Ethereum?
Well, I wouldn't say it's better. every bridge has its pros and cons. Ren is a great project. The end goal is the same, moving Doge to Ethereum back and forth. I should also mention that there are other bridges working in the same space, especially P tokens is very similar to Ren. But there are also others like Xclaim or TBTC that they haven't implemented a Dogecoin bridge, but they work in the same space. So going back to Ren, yeah, probably the biggest difference is Ren is general purpose solution. They run multiple blockchain bridges with the same code base, while we implemented a bridge that is specific for Dogecoin and Ethereum. Also, our bridge use is SPV, simplified payment verification for the Dogecoin to Ethereum side, and a collateralized solution for the Ethereum to Doge side, while they have a collateralized solution for both sides. There's also a technical aspect that doesn't affect how it works, but it's important for us. We wanted to make a solution that allows the verification of script hashes on EVM. I think it was Vitalik who wrote the first code to do that, like in Serpent, like 5 years ago. And yeah, and then Christian wrote an the thing that code used to consume like 300 million units of gas. And then Christian, the lead developer of Solidity, implemented an interactive solution for that, and the Trubit team improved that, and eventually we ended up using that as part of our solution. So for us, it's important to solve that problem as part of the bridge. Then another thing that is different is that we use Ether as collateral, while Ren uses their own token. We think it's better to use Ether because the price of Ether is more stable, and it makes the bridge simpler if you don't have to use a custom utility token. And at the same time, you can increase the amount of collateral that is needed if the price changes. The other thing is Ren has like a minimum collateral for validators to participate. When the price of Ren was higher, it used to be 170,000 US dollars, which is a lot, like minimum to be a validator. And we have no minimum, so I think having no minimum, it's an incentive for decentralization. A key thing of Ren is when you send Dogecoins to validators, you are not sending them to a single validator, but to a group of validator, which is a good thing. But in order to implement that, they designed a new cryptographic system that does multisig, and it's a custom version of multi-party computation, and they claim they can embed like 30 of 100 multisig into a single signature, like a PageUki hash using ECDSA. And it's a major breakthrough. If that works well, probably many multisig wallets will end up using that technology too. But if there is a problem with that, well, that will be like a big problem.
But
yeah,
if it works, it's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And yeah, and finally, they created their own blockchain. So a third blockchain is required to do a bridge between Ethereum and Dogecoin, where we coordinate everything in Ethereum smart contracts. So that will be kind of the measure differences between the two solutions.
So this question is for all of you. What are you guys excited to be able to do once the bridge is in place between the two blockchains?
Hmm. 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 I can hear you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I did not realize that it was like that hard to like even change a key in a multisig. Like, wait, like, why does everyone even needs to create a new key? Like, can't you just create a new multisig that has all the same keys except for one that gets changed? Or does the software just not let you do that?
Well, I can't answer that
Sorry,
one
so-
for you. I'm sorry.
Right, hopefully that's all now working. My audience can hear me. Yeah, my audience can hear me. You can hopefully hear me. Sorry about that. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they can hear me now. Great. So what we're talking about is, so we could have potentially used the same public keys, but partly if we're having to do it anyway, we still need to verify have the keys. We also need to check the results. So there's a lot of just handling stuff. And I think, yeah, could we have simplified it potentially? But we still have to make a new address. Any money sent to the old address is on the wrong keys. And there's
Right,
no
I
way
see.
of stopping anyone from sending money to that old address. Fortunately,
Oh, right. I see.
Yeah.
Like there is a persistent identifier that can survive key changes.
yeah, exactly.
Wow,
Whereas if we did it,
that is fascinating.
yeah,
Hmm.
or if we wanted to change the dynamic of the keys, like it's simply n of m. So at the moment it's 2 of 3, but if we wanted to have a fourth key, great, a whole new identifier. If we wanted
Right.
3 of 5, and then we want to make it 2 of 5 or 4 of 5, even if the keys aren't changing, the whole script changes. So I think there's a lot of efficiency gains in that, and make ways to handle that much better than we have been currently.
Got it.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions for each other?
Let's see. I mean, Ross. So what is your technical vision for Dogecoin?
Oh wow! I mean, the moment. So just getting 121 out is the big highlight for me. There's lots of people who want to do different things with it, and it's kind of. I think we need to sit down with a lot of the community, and particularly the companies working in the ecosystem, and go, what actually makes most sense. I know. I'm going to list things I hear calls for without indicating these are where we're going to go. So please don't hold me to any of these or any specifically. But obviously, proof of stake has come up. You know, one thing actually particularly is if we can move with the bridge, it enables us to move Dogecoins onto Ethereum. We can then look at scaling through Ethereum's sharding project system. So that's one way for us to improve scalability. I know Bitcoin Core is looking at this as well, but I really want to look at decoupling the user interface of Dogecoin Core from the back end, because I think architecturally we're quite slowed down by having the super security critical back end and the user interface that is less critical and handled differently as one monolithic piece. What else has been coming up? I think the consensus library that I know in Bitcoin Core does this. Dogecoin Core has a consensus library that's always very utilized. So I'd love to see, why is that? Can we get Android applications using it where they're currently using a different Java library? Because every separate implementation introduces risk of them mismatching. Counterpoint, of course, Ethereum has multiple implementations intentionally. So maybe it's not about having a single implementation. Maybe it's about improving the processes around how we do multiple implementations. So there's lots of things. I don't think we've got a single direction we've gone, yes, this is definitely it right now. But there's lots of things that we want to sort of sit down with people, the companies in the ecosystem, the payment providers, blockchain engineers, and go, okay, here's the things we're thinking about. What are the problems you're having? And how do these line up? And it may not even be technical solutions. I think that's the other thing, is we see a lot of people trying to solve everything as a technical solution, and some of them are social or educational.
Right. I get it. there's definitely a lot of problems that are technical, right? Like scalability is like I mean, it's a problem with plenty of social consequences, but it's also one that you can solve technically, which is nice. Do you see people asking for fast confirmation times, by the way?
I was going to say, I know one person who has, quite high profile person did. I think so. I think there's a very compelling case made that if I people go, what do you see? How do you see Dogecoin? I really want to buy coffee with Dogecoin, and they go, is a minute fast enough? And I go, ooh, awkward question. So I have to admit that is one where it would be great to go into a coffee shop and they say, oh great, we take Dogecoin. So I tap my phone on a payment platform and it just does a I keep every time I say. I think it's NFC, isn't it? Yeah, because I keep mixing them up with NFT because now I've got NFT in my head and I can't forget NFT.
Vitalik, didn't you do a voice for an NFT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So interesting. I guess though, like even in Ethereum, we actually get what was it? So we get calls to try to find ways to make ththings faster because like if for quote the Web3 vision, even 12 seconds is not fast enough for a lot of people, which is interesting.
Yeah, because I think we are being nudged towards people would love 6 seconds, and part of me is kind of, does that make sense to do on a layer 1 blockchain, or is that something that is going to make more sense on a layer 2? And I know that the existing layer 2 they kind of launched and then they didn't really quite work the way they were meant to, where there was actually sort of end up with lots of sharded layer 2s that weren't really put together, and I think we need some way of making that experience better, but I don't and again, like, we need to look at what do people want to do with this, what are the targets. I know lots of people say let's make it faster. Great, let's get an actual analyst in and look at what that does to the performance characteristics and be able to make a strong argument, because at the moment I think particularly in Dogecoin we're making kind of a hunch on what's that going to do to the performance, and are people aware of the trade-offs? Like if we make it 10 times faster, then and we fully pack those blocks, your disk usage is just going to go through the roof. That's fine.
I think you can kind of decouple faster from bigger, right? Like I think like you can talk about having blocks come 50 times more often, but also be 50 times smaller, and that's an improvement to a latency without touching scalability. But then you can also talk about like separately about like how whatever frequency the blocks have, like what happens if you make them 2 times or 5 times or 10 times bigger. They're both definitely fascinating questions. And on the latency side, I guess, well, Ethereum has worked fine with 13-second block times, which is interesting. I guess I definitely wonder what happens if you try to be like even more extreme and push on that further. I mean, I know there's definitely some blockchains that try.
I mean, I would absolutely love to be able to start doing large-scale experiments with that, or even small-scale experiments. And we could look at a technology such as NS2, so Network Simulator, to be able to potentially model that out ahead of time, or just throw it live on AWS is the other option. And I think
totally,
even just as a thought piece, it would be fascinating to go, okay, let's make a new blockchain and experiment and see what happens. What how often do we see blocks being micro forks forming? To explain that for the audience, basically, if the faster it goes, the more likely it is that 2 miners will find a block essentially concurrently, and then you end up with a competition for those 2 blocks, and some people will pick up one and some pick up the other. It resolves over time, but the user experience isn't great because you may see a transaction confirm, then unconfirm, then hopefully reconfirm. And it's not, so that's the potential downside. The faster it goes, the more things get a bit shaky. But I think let's find out. I think that would be amazing. Question back for Vitalik, actually, because we talked about NFTs briefly, and I'm curious, what do you think of NFTs?
I think NFTs are interesting, but again, there's ways to do them well and there's ways to do them not well. Like I think like one direction for doing them well is to just have actually think instead of just NFTs where the only value that an NFT has is like vanity value of being able to say you have the NFT, have NFTs that actually have properties so you can do things with them. Like even just one excellent example of this, so like ENS, right? People forget, I think, that ENS domains are NFTs. They're like basically the first NFT that was really successful in Ethereum. And it's ENS, I think, is Ethereum's by far most successful non-DeFi application. So that's one direction. And then the other direction is, of course, like this question of like where the money goes and what are the things that the NFTs actually end up supporting, which like, obviously, yeah, like you don't want a situation where people just get lots like people get lots of money for doing very little work, and that just kind of sours people's impression of the whole space, I guess. So, if it's an NFT of something where a huge amount of work went into it, that's one thing. And then ideally it would also, like, I've been really into this concept of some of the revenue from NFTs going for charities as well, and trying to use that to just fund public goods of various kinds. So again, I think it's still a new space, and I'm still like very friendly to experimentation, and I hope to see much more experimentation. And then like 1 or 2 years from now, we'll see where that goes.
Cool. And then I did actually want to give Oscar a question. So I know we talked about RenVM versus the Doge Ethereum bridge. Did you want to talk about P networks and its upsides and downsides in comparison?
Well, I will say that P network is very similar to REN. P network they put more attention to their trusted execution environment, so every validator is required to run on Intel SGX. So that gives another layer of security. At the same time, Intel SGX has been hacked over and over and over in the last few years, so that's not a good news. But well, let's hope it won't be broken again.
Yeah.
Away from that, it's very similar. Both projects are doing kind of the same thing. So everything that is said for REN goes for P tokens.
Yeah, I think that was the concern a few people have had with P networks is, it very depends on SGX and or differentiates through SGX, and if that doesn't work as the way it's meant to, that's kind of its risk case.
Yeah, REN, they at least on their documentation, they also plan to use a trusted execution environment with the Google, I don't remember, ASIL or something like that. So yeah, so that's all.
Since we're on Twitch, I do have to ask you guys, do any of you have time for gaming? And if so, what are you playing right now?
No, I mean, I play chess sometimes.
Nice. That had a little phase on Twitch for a little while. It became pretty exciting. I'm sure people would watch you play if you ever want to stream on Twitch.
I am just going to openly say I'm not good at chess. I'm not getting into this. I mean, so I've done some Satisfactory on stream recently. So that's kind of my go-to when I've got downtime. I really want to get back into Among Us, actually. So I want to do another Among Us stream. And that maybe coming up at some point.
Yeah, Among Us is a pretty good game. Or that ghost hunting game. So do you guys have anything coming up that you want to plug? Any announcements you want to make? Anything that you're working on?
I was going to say, so we're going to do a more technical deep dive stream, Oscar, myself, and one of the Ethereum Foundation later on. So that will be coming up for anyone who wanted a much more technical deep dive, but we wanted to keep this sort of higher level.
My next stream of this type will be with Mitchie Loom of the Dogecoin Foundation board. She's going to be talking about what the board is and what it means for Dogecoin and what her role will be going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excited to see that.
Yeah. Vitalik, what do you do for fun in your spare time? Do you have any hobbies?
I mean, I read things. I go on walks, go on runs.
I'm surprised you have any time for that at all. You must be pretty busy. Some of the research that I did on you, a little bit of it was very forward thinking. And I did want to ask you a little bit if you wanted to talk a little bit about the fable of the dragon tyrant, because I know that's like
Sure. Again, it's like what I guess. Well, it's not my short story, but it's one of my favorites. And this is this short story by Nick Bostrom, and it's basically talks about this kingdom where there's a dragon that's just keeps on eating people, and at first the people in the kingdom try to kill the dragon, but then they fail, and the dragon keeps on eating people, and eventually they just develop this culture of just accepting the reality of the dragon, and even like sending people on trains to keep him fed, to make things more convenient for everyone, and just settling down into the situation where people just start accepting that the dragon is like this fact of life, and like it's either foolish or potentially even immoral to talk about ways to get rid of him, until eventually civilization progresses and technology gets good enough, and eventually like they have to essentially kind of face and overcome the mythology that they've created, because science really is at the point where like you can make they're able to make a missile powerful enough to blow up the dragon, and then people don't have to get eaten anymore, and everyone lives happily ever after. This story is a metaphor for aging, right? Like aging is something that kills like everyone after some time between 60 and 120 years, and it's not a nice way to die. You suffer a very debilitating pain in the last few years of your life. It kills more people, I think, every 2 years than World War II. So it's a very nasty dragon, but it's a condition that like we've basically come, or most people have come to basically accept as natural. And sometimes if you bring up the idea of like using technology to reverse aging, like there are even people who start saying like, hey, aging is good, and like isn't it like what we have overpopulation if we get rid of aging, which is of course an argument that you would never hear someone making for like say war, right? So like you want to ask, well, like why are we so okay to just to accept this argument again, this in the context of aging. And the reason why this is important is because like while it is true that for thousands of years people have like been searching for cures for aging, and pretty much all of them have been snake oil, sometimes literal snake oil, and like none of it worked except for just like a little intermittent fasting and exercise to give yourself a couple more years. Actually, even the intermittent fasting thing is fairly a fairly new realization. But now we're just at the cusp of actually having enough technology to be able to, address the aging problem before it starts turning into the really serious diseases that people get when they get old. And people, like, I think people aren't realizing yet that biotech really has advanced a lot, and I think it could be on the cusp of advancing much more, right? Like this could, like, if you think about how computers advanced between 1949 and 2020, right? Like they've gone from the very first computers, like I think ENIAC was created around that time, and like it was this very dinky and barely effective thing that could only do a couple thousand operations, but it had this big room full of vacuum tubes. And now today there's computer chips that are just incredibly tiny, and like everything's a computer, and there's like your watch is a computer, your phone's a computer, everything's a computer. And sometimes we even have worries around like things like surveillance about like what happened that are a result of too many things being computers. So like that's 70 years. So imagine what biotech can do in 70 years. And I think all of you in this chat like probably have 70 more years to live even without any more biotech. Life just keep in mind that you get to benefit. Like there's a lot of tech that even exist, and a lot of just improvements to the economy that even exist today that haven't like kind of fully filtered through to everyone, right? And so within those 70 years, just like imagine like how far biotech could go, and even like just consider the massive boost of I guess interest that the whole space got during the pandemic. Like I think we really could be seeing this century just be a century where like just seeing your parents die is something that just slowly disappears from the public experience, the same way that getting lost in a city disappeared over the last 50 years now that we have cell phones. And that's going to be a much better and much more interesting world, and I'm like excited to support everyone who's helping making it happen.
Yeah, I think where we are now, like I believe that I would be able to live to be 150, but I think if we can get past the barriers of a lot of people who are stuck in that type of thinking, that when they're taught something, they have no way of breaking out of that thought process. I do believe we could, I don't want to get too excited about it, but the possibilities, if we could get rid of all the barriers, I mean, we could be the next generation of like humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you do the fasting, the like low calorie thing? Have you tried in that?
I do intermittent fasting. By the way, for anyone watching, intermittent fasting is a basic version of it is very easy. It actually takes negative effort. You can be lazier. It's very simple. Don't eat breakfast. That's it. Like you just don't eat breakfast, and you don't have snacks in the morning, and like there you go. Like it's a health improvement to your life. And then there's also like this growing set of kind of supplements that people are doing more and more studies about, and some of them suggest that like maybe they don't work, maybe they give you a couple of years, but they're known to definitely not be harmful. So I take a couple of those as well. So I'm definitely following this space. I mean, right now I think it's still early days, but 5 or 10 years from now, I think it's going to be much more interesting in terms of what's actually available.
Yeah, no, I fell down the rabbit hole of that. So I'm looking into the low calorie, but like lots of food. And I think for Americans, it'll be really easy to cut out breakfast, because what are we eating for breakfast anyway? Cereal? That's trash. Don't eat it. So
yeah, this is very true. Like average breakfast food is actually not very good food.
No, not at all.
Except avocado toast, but you can just eat that for lunch. So
yes, that's definitely a lunch more than it is a breakfast, I would say. But as long as you're getting your nutrients, everybody should be okay. So
yep.
I was gonna say, the stream is now going to turn into a breakfast fight. I was gonna say, I'm a yogurt and fruit kind of guy.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of the anti-aging stuff is completely superficial, and a lot of the skincare routines that I've seen, if those people spent that time sleeping instead of putting stuff on their face, that would, revive them more than putting all that stuff.
I mean, I think there's definitely a kind of public perception problem, right? Like that there's like the skin, like that skincare stuff and like deep longevity research are in the same space, in the same way that like Ethereum and Ethereum Max are in the same space, right? Like, one's a blockchain, the other is a scam coin. They just like get attached to each other for some reason.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you're doing gets lost in the noise too, because I think people are just so stuck in their regular patterns that I don't know. I have a lot of faith in what you're doing. I'm very excited. So Oscar, I was also meaning to ask you when you think the bridge will be production ready.
Good question. We don't have a current estimate. We have a working prototype that can send Doges back and forth. The code is open source, by the way. Everyone can check the code on our GitHub. It's called Doge Ethereum. But we have like a list of things that we need to do before we release. One is to create a UI so normal people can use the bridge instead of geeks that know how to use the command line. We have to decentralize our price oracle. We have to implement the penalization for operators when they misbehave. And then we have to do all these small things that needs to be done in order to make a formal release, like fix bugs, fix a couple of things that, the things that are not ready, and also do an external security audit to get externalized into our code. So those are like the measure things that once we complete them, we will release.
All right, cool, great. Ross, anything else from you?
No, I was actually going to say, Oscar, talking about the open source code, I was going to say some of the repositories in there, I wasn't certain which one's the latest. It would actually be great at some point, if you can make sure that you know which ones people should be looking at and tweet those out maybe, so people can... Sorry, I'm realizing I'm speaking very quickly. For the open source repositories, if you can maybe tweet out the ones that people should look at and the latest and most up to date, that would be brilliant for the people who want to dive into that technical detail. Oh,
sorry,
you're muted.
I was muted. Yes, I will. Basically, it's the master repository, the master branch of every repo on the Doge Ethereum. On the Doge Ethereum GitHub. That will be it. Yesterday, we actually pushed a lot of new code, but I will tweet about that, yes.
Vitalik, what are you reading right now?
I'm not reading. Well, right now I'm not reading anything. I'm kind of in the middle of I guess a break between things.
Ditto. I just came back from a vacation. Do you ever go on vacation?
I mean, I guess like for me, every day is sort of like a fluid mix of doing various things. So
I get that. While on vacation, I took a bunch of pictures. So you're always kind of getting work done in the background.
Yeah, right. Like there's, if there's work to do, I do it. If there's fun stuff to do, I do it.
Have you done any traveling? Are there any countries that you'd recommend for me to try out once I get out of this quarantine?
Mexico has been actually interesting. I spent some time there.
Oh, really?
No, it's one of the only places that like just to let anyone come the whole time. So, I mean, obviously, like in COVID, safety is like a bit of a DIY in that environment, but like it's not that bad, right? Because like especially if what you want to do is just like go there with some friends and mostly, stay in an Airbnb and just otherwise kind of enjoy outdoor things, then it's not too bad. It's I don't know. I personally find the food great. I find what else is great. I mean, the government is not annoying. Like how like when you go into the U.S. and sometimes they're just like they ask a lot of like, what is the purpose of your trip, and a lot of these questions that just make you feel very uncomfortable at times. And like no, like Mexico's like, hey, welcome. So I appreciate places that are welcoming. There's a lot of just very interesting local culture of all kinds there. That's.
Did you ever do one of the swim up bars there?
I have not. I'm not much of a bar person. Unless. Swimming is cool, I guess.
Yeah. That's one of the things that people have told me that I need to try when I go to Mexico is that they have swim up bars, and I've never experience this in real life. I can't imagine being in water and drinking while you're in water. So definitely something I want to try, maybe. So not big on the bar scene. Like,
I mean, unless you mean the Byzantine altruist rational model, like that, I don't know, that's a bar that I find cool. But
do you play any sports? Casually, I mean.
Does going on runs count as a sport?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I've done that. I don't know, I did a 20-kilometer run through Paris the day after EdCon, so that was fun.
Ooh. Oh man.
Oh, sorry, not EdCon, not EdCon, ECC. I think I just get the two mixed up. They're both 5-letter E conferences for Ethereum. Yeah, they're both cool.
Oh man, no. France was one of the places that I was going to go pre-COVID to do some traveling. So
yeah, no, it was EFCC was the last event before the event stopped, and it's the first Ethereum event now that the events are starting. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Are you doing a lot of like interviews like this now and like events where it's like not?
Yeah, no, definitely lots of things are online. The world has definitely moved much more online over the last 1.5 years. Like way more of these video events, and then also no in-person events. I'm actually noticing that even my desire to go to in-person events is definitely lower than it was before.
Yeah. I'm like trying to not let it affect me too much, but I have noticed that I'm a little more neurotic than I used to be, or maybe I should say safe. I'm safer than I used to be about going to events.
Cautious is good.
Yeah, cautious.
Hopefully things are improving. Hopefully.
Yeah, Twitch had an event, a con recently where they had us all drive robots around. So I got to drive a robot around and talk to other robots, and that was kind of interesting. I see that as the future, only completely digital, no more,
Right. Yeah, no, it's interesting how kind of virtual realities of different kind and like tele-realities are taking over. It's again, well, also I think Mark Zuckerberg talking about the metaverse, that was interesting. I mean, I personally am definitely excited about the blockchain space, I guess, creating its own more decentralized alternative. And the good news is that, I think, the Ethereum space has been creating its own metaverses, right? Like Decentraland has been going around for just quietly doing its own thing for years. And I'm sure that we're going to see more things too.
I think people will get used to transitioning into a virtual world as well, because I think some of us have been playing MMOs since we were kids, so it's no big deal for us to like visualize some of these things, whereas people who don't have any experience in that realm have kind of a harder time transitioning. Like our parents. Did you get into that kind of stuff when you were younger? Did you play any games or anything?
Again, I played World of Warcraft when I was younger.
Do you ever play that now? We could play a round sometime.
Well, and my account ended up getting, like, I got a notification years after I stopped playing that my account got banned, which was just really weird.
Randomly? What?
I don't know.
I don't know. I would have to like log back in. I'd have to figure that out again. It's been a while. It's been a while. So. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming and talk to us today. You're all welcome back at any point.
Yeah, thank you too.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh.
Titled KVM camera. Nope, camera. So we Is that working? Can you hear me? You've got me. Excellent. I hope. Okay. Oh, you're saying muted. It says I'm working. It tells me you can hear me. How about now? Is that working? Because I'm seeing audio lines working, so you should be able to hear me. And if you're not, I don't know what's up with that. Oh, the end of the chat. Oh, right, I do apologise. Yeah, sorry. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into... so the bridge. Well, as I said, it's things like the bounty for the Doge tips. The way that it currently works is very difficult. That's a lot of work to maintain. Whereas what we can look at doing is, if we want to change one of the keys, 2 out of 3 of us can say, right, we need to replace this key with this other key. Or if we need to change it to 4 keys, 5 keys, I think that's really good. So people saying why the host? So the host was there because she is clearer. We wanted to have it really clear for the audience and be able to capture the questions really well. So I'm going to jump into the VM. Actually, no, I need to boot the VM first. That's why that's not working. I am going to jump straight into coding. So give the VM a couple of seconds to go, and then I'm going to be right back and grab some water while the VM boots. I will be back in 60 seconds. Okay, that was me this time. So I put the code back into the chat. It's gone back off the screen again. So the questions, I hate to say it, people, I helped write the questions. She tweaked the wording, but the questions were me. But yeah, we'll have a technical deep dive with Oscar, but we wanted to do something that was accessible to as many people as possible. And didn't get to a point, because I know, there's a lot of technical detail we can go into, but there's different audiences, different groups that we're targeting. Cool. I have forgotten to actually put the VM on screen. There we go. There we go. Cool. Right. So what we're doing today is we're jumping back into the fees, because I have 45 minutes, so let's get some fees done. Git branch, git checkout, 1.14 fees. Okay. So what we're doing is the first stage of the fee code that's going in. I can't say the word true bit. So we had questions we wanted to cover. We wanted to focus on those. I'm aware people wanted to ask about true bit. I didn't want to dive into other things that were tangential to what we wanted to do. Partly I'm a little bit confused where the swim up bar came from on that one, but Oh, so I've seen all the activities. I need to actually come back and thank people. So I'm going to scroll down through this list. I'm not going to catch everyone. You're all greatly appreciated. I know there's a lot of stuff happened. So, but the top ones, PDK12, thank you for the 1,000 bits. Crawfish52, thank you for the resubscription. Commandy, thank you for the 20 gift subs 26 minutes ago. PDK12, thank you for the 10,000 bits half an hour ago. Korean Doge King, thank you for the gift sub. Luis Flores, thank you for resubscribing. Legendary Go Getter, thank you for the 1 bit. Commandy, thank you for the other 20 community subs. Wow, and that hype train, everyone. Thanks, Leo, for the bits. Sorry, let me pull this over so I'm not staring in the wrong direction. Hype train, amazing. 3 bits, Legendary Go Getter. 5 Zactamoon, thank you for the gift subs there. Thank you for the subscription, ADJ Niche. I can't even pronounce your name. Thank you for the 5 gift subs, Zactamoon. Thank you for the subscription, Sadie Superfly. And I think that's me caught up with everything but the follows. I'm not going to try doing all the follows. So, we are just unpicking what has happened to this code. So this is ready so that once Patrick reviews the fee architecture changes and they're in, we can then go straight into merging the actual value changes that are the core of this work. Okay, right. Yeah, sorry, it's hard to read chat and focus on this, but hey, at least work's happening. Diff head. There we go. It's fine. Right, yeah, because that nose goes into what.cvp. That's good. Okay. Let's just get rebase. Oh. Git log. Diff. Okay, so there's potentially changes that we want to undo, and that's what I'm here to just tweak here. I think that's actually all of them. Oh, no. Source wallet.h. CFE rate. Oh, that's another one. Okay, I am going to have to come back to that because that is now a lot more complicated than it was earlier. Okay, so what we've ended up with, let me just talk about what's happening and where this is going next. So what I've done, well, there's a lot of chat. Yeah, so there are an awful lot of you and it's a bit difficult to track all of you. Oh, and I've lost a window I needed. Let me undock that again. Activity feed, great, that's back there. Cool. So what we're doing is we're introducing the changes that drive the infrastructure for fees. That's gone back to Patrick for review. He said he will review it this morning, hoping that will go in today. Once that's in, we then need to put some minor changes to the actual numbers used. So that's what we've just been preparing there. Because of the way we've got so many changes lined up, that's actually going to be a bit trickier to apply into the commits than I thought. So what I've done is I've prepared a different set between what we had and what we have now. And then I can, when Patrick's review is done and applied, I can then apply that more readily. So with a little bit of luck, that will be happening tonight. Let me catch up with some of the questions. I'm going to scroll back a whole bunch because I know there's been a bunch of them. Keto ISM said, can someone upload the full interview to YouTube? So I imagine, so Soma will almost suddenly edit that down and then upload on her YouTube. If not, obviously I can. But like she has editing experience. That's again part of, she's a professional host. Bratnoy says, will the update for lower transaction fees run on the same network? Yes. So what we're doing is the update we want to bring out soon. Ideally, I only want to get an alpha out this week. So potentially, if we can get the infrastructure in, I'm then just going to apply everything I have ready to go into one big branch, tag that, and I'll potentially do binaries myself just to get something you can experiment with. And then that will enable lower fees, but it won't default to them. And the reason that will work that way is we need a high adoption for it before, if you use a low fee, it will actually work. Because if the first person to download the new wallet, if they create a transaction with low fees, the rest of the network won't recognize that. So there needs to be like tens, hundreds of people with the lower fee wallet before, when the first person creates a transaction, the next one goes, yeah, that looks sensible, and then propagates to the network. Because of how it works, as long as the low fee transaction gets into a block, everyone accepts it. So it's not a fork, it's just a relay network tweak. But yeah, so it runs on the same network. We just need to do a 2-stage update. Brain at work. Yeah, I'm really weird. I am good. A bit dehydrated. I only got 1 glass of water. So catching up with that. Hey, I want to swap to bars. Like, don't discount that option. Like, there's a reason I had the pull-up bars and working out to get into beach ready. I'm not going to be beach ready for summer because it's now summer, but we're looking for Halloween. So I've talked about a couple of bridge use cases. The main one, the biggest one for me, is things like being able to put bounties in Dogecoin, or being able to spend Dogecoin through Ethereum. We can use Ethereum for scalability. Like the moment you move Dogecoins from the Dogecoin native chain to Ethereum, we get that 12-second blockchain. So that's faster confirmations as well. I think the Dragon story was really interesting. I know the chat was not a big fan of it. Honestly, personally, I was. I find it really interesting talking about the stuff that we don't, we think about the constraints where we are within. Sometimes we need to think about what could we do, what should we be forward looking about. And I think that's really amazing, actually. Is Doge going to have team going around? So the Doge Foundation is trying to build a team, or is meant to be building the reason the Doge Foundation exists is so that we can have a team. It got launched earlier than I was ready for, and there are questions that we don't have final answers for. So I really want to nail those down before we talk more about the foundation. But as I said, Soma's going to get Mitchie on stream and that will be sort of probably the big foundation stream. I think we kind of do need marketing, like, we also need education. That's a big thing coming up for us. As I said, I want to get a binary out, even if I build this myself and say to people, look, this is testnet only, but we want you downloading it, telling us if it works in your system. Does it have any hiccups for you? I think that may well happen. Or I may tag a release and then say, look, if you know how to compile it, go here, compile it, tell me if that works. It's a difficult trade-off that I don't want to get people downloading things for the production network that only I've signed, because that's then a security risk. But I think we could definitely do it with a tagged release, or we could make a version that's testnet only for people to experiment with. Or maybe just we'll get 2 or 3 signatures just to get it out fast. I think questions on TrueBit are in fact for the TrueBit devs, not for me. Just catch it. Wow, you people kept talking. October Goth Fest sounds like a really good plan. Doge to the moon, absolutely. Yeah, we'll say that. So I don't really make a Doge company, because that then has the wrong implications. Because, like, for me, Dogecoin is not trying to make us all rich. And a company, one of the big problems we've actually had is that if we formed a company, it is then expected to make a profit. And if it doesn't make a profit, there's questions about why is it not making a profit. If we make a non-profit, it's meant to never make a profit. But if we make something that's make some money, sort of, but not a lot, there's not a good model for that. Whole different. We'll talk about that a lot when the foundation is out, because Jens, who's been dealing with the legal side, will have a lot of talking to do. I'm actually going to have to wrap up quite soon. So the fees code is ready. I'm going to, once the review from Patrick is in, I'm going to put all the changes we've got into a line, or into a single branch, and then tag that and say at least, hey, if you know what you're doing to build this, you can grab this, build it, run it your own systems, give us feedback. Like, there's lots of fixes in there. There's performance tweaks. So it should sync a lot faster. There is a crash bug that I found recently that's fixed. There's like 100 different changes. I need to write the release notes on this, actually. It's huge. But we want people really testing that before we let everyone have it. So it's not going to be up on the main site for a little bit, but we do want people downloading it early. So we keep in mind, so the price is, as I've said publicly, the price is what someone else will pay you for it. Someone said, well, if I would pay you $10 for a Dogecoin, isn't the price is still 0.2? I went, okay, so it's price and volume. Like, but if you look at order book for a market, you can see, hey, this person will buy 5 Dogecoins at this price, and then the price goes lower, but they'll buy more. And then on the other side, you get the people who sell, and the price went up a long way, they would sell. And that's actually this concept, an order book, and how much you can buy and sell at different prices. So you end up with a sort of valley where the prices that you see are the ones where the lowest volume is, but there's massive volume if it jumped up and down. Anyway, I actually had to get back to the day job. Thank you much for everyone coming. Thank you. I hope you have a brilliant day. My next stream will be on Sunday. I was going to say, hang on. Blackberry, if you're around, do we have a raid out to do? And if you can tell me if we are going to raid out, just so I know. If not, we'll probably raid the chickens. Okay, we're going to raid the chickens. I think that's a good option. There we go. We're raiding out to the chickens. Okay. Just so you're aware, it will be follower-only chat on our Chicken Life, but I wanted to take you all somewhere. The chickens, they're great fun. Next stream will be Sunday night. I'm cutting the hours I'm live down, but it lets me give more